Comfort often begins so quietly that we notice it only after it has arrived. A chair seems to hold the body without asking anything in return. The air feels neither too cool nor too warm. A distant sound continues at an even pace, becoming less like an interruption and more like part of the room itself. Somewhere nearby, a lamp softens the edges of familiar objects. Nothing dramatic has changed, and yet the body has begun to use a little less effort. The shoulders no longer need to remain raised. The jaw rests more easily. The eyes stop searching every corner. Attention, which may have been moving from one small concern to another, becomes less determined to inspect what comes next. This is one of the quietest features of comfort. It is not merely pleasure, and it is not simply the absence of pain. Comfort often appears when the body and brain decide that the present surroundings are manageable. The temperature can be tolerated. The surface beneath the body offers enough support. The sounds are understandable. The light reveals what is necessary without demanding constant attention. In such a setting, the nervous system does not become completely inactive. It continues to regulate breathing, circulation, posture, temperature, and awareness. But it may reduce some of the watchfulness that is useful in uncertain surroundings. The room is no longer presenting a series of unanswered questions. Is a sound approaching? Will the surface shift? Is the air becoming colder? Does anything nearby require an immediate response? When the answers remain steady for long enough, the brain can begin to predict what will happen next. The low household hum will continue. The curtain will move gently when air passes through the room. The mattress will remain beneath the body. The doorway will stay where it is. Familiar objects will not suddenly become unfamiliar. Prediction is an ordinary part of perception. The brain does not wait passively for every sensation to arrive as if it were completely new. It uses past experience to anticipate what a sound, texture, movement, or place is likely to mean. When the incoming information matches those expectations, less attention may be needed to interpret it. This may help explain why a familiar room can feel easier than an equally pleasant room encountered for the first time. A new hotel room might be quiet, clean, and carefully designed. Yet the mind still needs time to learn its small patterns. Pipes make sounds at unexpected moments. Light enters beneath a door. The mattress supports the body differently. The air system begins and stops according to an unfamiliar rhythm. None of these details must be unpleasant. They are simply not yet fully predicted. At home, a faint creak in the floor may carry no urgency because it has happened on many evenings before. The hum of a refrigerator may disappear from conscious attention. Even the shape of darkness in the room has been learned. The brain has a history with the space, and that history can reduce the amount of uncertainty it contains. Comfort, then, is partly a relationship with what is expected. This does not mean that familiar things are always comfortable. A person can become familiar with noise, poor support, excessive heat, or an awkward posture without truly finding them pleasant. Nor does novelty always create tension. New places can be fascinating, refreshing, and deeply enjoyable. But during quiet periods, especially near the end of the day, familiarity often requires less inspection. It allows perception to become less busy. The body contributes its own continuous stream of information. Muscles report how much effort they are using. Joints signal their position. Skin detects temperature, pressure, vibration, and contact. Internal systems monitor changes that rarely enter awareness, unless something begins to move beyond a comfortable range. A well-supported position can reduce the small muscular corrections needed to keep the body stable. When the head, back, arms, and legs are resting against surfaces that suit the individual, fewer muscles may need to remain partially active. This is one reason comfort is closely connected with support, rather than softness alone. A surface can be soft but unsupportive, allowing the body to sink into a position that gradually becomes tiring. Another surface can be firm yet comfortable because it distributes weight in a way that reduces strain. The most suitable balance varies between people, and it may change with posture, fatigue, clothing, age, and habit. Even the same chair can feel different at different hours. Early in the day, its deep cushions may seem inconvenient when the body wants to sit upright and move easily. Later, the same cushions may feel welcoming because the body is ready to give more of its weight to the furniture. Comfort is therefore not held entirely inside an object. It develops between the object and the person using it. A blanket has weight, texture, temperature, and a certain way of folding around the body. Yet its meaning also depends on the weather, the room, and memory. On a cold evening, it may help reduce heat loss and create a protected layer of air near the skin. In a warm room, the same blanket may become heavy and stifling. A familiar fabric may be pleasant to one person and irritating to another. The body is always negotiating these conditions, rather than following a single rule. There is also comfort in having some control over the negotiation. The ability to move a pillow, open a window, lower a lamp, close a curtain, or adjust the sound in a room can matter even before any adjustment is made. Knowing that change is possible may reduce the feeling of being trapped inside an unsuitable environment. A space does not need to be perfect. It needs to feel workable. Perhaps this is why small personal arrangements can matter so much. A cup placed within reach. A book resting in its usual location. Slippers waiting beside the bed. A curtain drawn to the preferred distance. These details are modest, but together they form an environment that has been shaped around repeated human needs. Gradually, the room becomes easier to understand. The body receives steady support. The senses encounter fewer surprises. Familiar patterns continue without asking to be examined. And somewhere, within that quiet agreement between body, memory, and place, alertness begins to loosen. Not because the world has disappeared, but because, for the moment, it appears to be asking for nothing. Temperature is one of the first conditions the body notices, even when the mind is occupied elsewhere. A slight current of cool air across the hands can become clear before its source is found. Warmth gathering beneath a thick layer of clothing may slowly move from pleasant to excessive. A pillow turned to its cooler side can feel unexpectedly refreshing, not because cold is always comforting, but because the change helps the body return toward a more suitable balance. Human beings produce heat continuously. Even while resting, cells are carrying out chemical work. Muscles retain a small amount of activity, and organs maintain the processes that keep the body alive. At the same time, heat moves outward through the skin and breath, into clothing, bedding, nearby air, and any surface in contact with the body. Comfort often appears when heat production and heat loss can be balanced without much conscious effort. The body does not measure room temperature in the same simple way as a thermometer. Its experience depends on many conditions arriving together. Air temperature matters, but so do humidity, airflow, clothing, activity, contact with surrounding surfaces, and the amount of heat radiating from walls, windows, floors, or sunlight. A room with cool air may still feel agreeable when the body is wrapped in dry clothing and resting beneath suitable bedding. The same air may feel unpleasant against damp skin. A space can also feel chilly even when the measured temperature seems moderate if nearby walls and windows are very cold and the body is losing heat toward them. This is why comfort cannot be reduced to one ideal number. The skin contains sensory nerve endings that respond to changes in temperature. They help the nervous system detect whether heat is being gained or lost at the body's surface. These signals do not work alone. Information from deeper within the body also contributes to temperature regulation, allowing the brain to coordinate responses before conditions become dangerous. When the body begins to cool, blood vessels near the skin may narrow, reducing the amount of warm blood flowing close to the surface. Small muscles can tighten. And in stronger cold, shivering may generate additional heat. When the body becomes too warm, skin blood flow often increases, and sweating can cool the body as moisture evaporates. Most of this regulation happens without deliberate thought, yet the environment can make the task easier or harder. A calm, comfortable setting often allows the body to maintain its preferred range without strong responses. There is no need for shivering, heavy sweating, or constant rearrangement of clothing and covers. The body can remain quietly occupied with balance rather than correction. Mild warmth is often associated with comfort because it can reduce the sensation of losing heat. Warm fabric around the shoulders, a heated room entered from the cold, or sunlight resting briefly on a wooden floor may all offer a sense of relief. Muscles and skin that were exposed to cool conditions no longer need to defend against them so actively. But warmth does not remain comforting without limit. As heat accumulates, the same enclosed room may begin to feel heavy. Skin may become damp. Bedding that once felt protective can trap more heat than the body wants to keep. Air that is both warm and humid may make evaporation less effective, allowing discomfort to grow even without a dramatic rise in temperature. The body may then begin a series of small adjustments. A foot moves beyond the edge of the blanket. An arm is placed on a cooler part of the sheet. Clothing is loosened. The sleeping position changes to expose more skin to the surrounding air. These ordinary movements are part of temperature regulation, guided by sensation long before a person thinks carefully about what is happening. Comfort often depends on having several possible adjustments available. Layered clothing and bedding are useful partly because they can be changed gradually. Instead of choosing between complete exposure and one heavy covering, the body can keep or remove small amounts of insulation. A light sheet, a blanket, and a warmer outer layer allow a person to respond as the night changes. Earlier households also relied on layers, though the materials and living conditions varied widely. Wool blankets, linen sheets, bed curtains, feather-filled bedding, woven mats, and heated objects were used in different places and periods to manage cold. These methods could provide valuable warmth, but they did not make older homes uniformly comfortable. Rooms were often unevenly heated. The area close to a hearth might be warm while distant corners remained cold. Smoke could enter the living space. Damp walls, drafts, poor ventilation, and limited fuel could make winter difficult. Heavy bed curtains sometimes help preserve warmth around sleepers, creating a smaller pocket of air that was easier to heat, but they could also reduce airflow. Domestic comfort developed partly through attempts to control these uneven conditions. Insulation slowed the movement of heat through roofs and walls. Shutters and curtains reduced exposure near windows. Rugs changed the sensation of cold floors beneath bare or lightly covered feet. Smaller rooms could be easier to warm than large open interiors. Furniture was arranged according to the location of fires, sunlight, drafts, and sheltered walls. Even now, people create small climates within larger rooms. A reading chair may be placed away from a cold window.
Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, Brother John. Morning bells are ringing.
These local conditions help explain why two people in the same room may describe it differently. One may be sitting still beside an exterior wall, while another has been moving and is closer to a warm appliance. Their clothing, circulation, body size, recent meals, health, and expectations may also differ. Climate and habit influence perception as well. People adapted to warm regions may experience cool indoor air differently from those accustomed to long winters. Seasonal change matters. A temperature that feels fresh in late summer may feel unusually mild after weeks of winter cold. The body learns its surroundings, although adaptation is never complete or identical between individuals. There is a gentle usefulness in this variability. Comfort does not require the whole environment to remain fixed. It can emerge through adjustment, adding a layer, shifting position, allowing air to move, warming the feet while keeping the face cool, or choosing a material that manages moisture more effectively. A quiet room may therefore contain several temperatures at once. There is the cooler air near a window, the stored warmth of a wall, the sheltered space beneath a blanket, the smooth coolness of a pillowcase, and the faint heat held in a wooden chair after someone has been sitting there. The skin reads these differences continuously. When they remain within a manageable range, they become part of the background. The body no longer needs to defend strongly against cold or release an uncomfortable excess of heat. It can make subtle corrections without fully waking attention, and as thermal effort becomes smaller, another layer of comfort begins to appear. The simple feeling that the surrounding air, fabric, and surfaces are cooperating with the body rather than asking it to struggle. Long before a texture is named, the skin has already begun to understand it. A sleeve brushes the wrist. A woven cover rests across the legs. The fingertips pass over the smooth edge of a table, then across the faint irregularities of unfinished wood. These contacts may seem simple, but each one produces a changing pattern of pressure, movement, temperature, and vibration. The skin is not merely a protective covering. It is a large sensory surface filled with nerve endings that respond to different kinds of physical change. Some are especially sensitive to light contact. Others respond more strongly when pressure deepens, when the skin stretches, or when a vibration passes rapidly across it. Together, their signals help the brain judge whether something is still or moving, rough or smooth, firm or yielding. This sensory system allows a person to button clothing without watching every movement, notice an insect landing on an arm, or feel when a glass is beginning to slip from the hand. It also contributes to the quieter experience of settling into a resting place. When contact is uneven or unstable, the body may continue making small corrections. A narrow edge presses into one area. Fabric gathers beneath the shoulder. A seam lies beneath the ankle. None of these sensations needs to be painful to remain noticeable. The nervous system may keep returning to them because the pattern has not yet become easy to ignore. A more evenly distributed contact can require less monitoring. When a cushion supports a wider area, or a cover lies without tight folds, no single point needs to carry as much pressure. The sensation becomes broader and steadier. It may gradually fade from the foreground of attention. This is one reason people often rearrange a resting place before becoming still. A pillow is shaped beneath the neck. A crease is smoothed from a sheet. The edge of a blanket is moved away from the face. These gestures are small negotiations between the skin and its surroundings. Softness can help, but softness alone is not the whole explanation. A soft material bends around the body, reducing sharp changes in pressure. Fibers or cushioning may absorb slight movements instead of reflecting them immediately back toward the skin. This can make contact feel gentle, yet a material that is too deep, too loose, or too warm may become difficult to move against. Some people prefer a crisp sheet, a firm cushion, or the cool smoothness of tightly woven fabric. Preferences are shaped by sensitivity, habit, climate, clothing, and personal experience. A surface described as pleasantly textured by one person may feel distracting to another. Even a barely visible label inside a shirt can become impossible to overlook once attention has found it. The brain also interprets texture through expectation. A rough surface is not necessarily uncomfortable when roughness is appropriate to the object. The grain of a clay cup, the worn handle of a tool, or the uneven surface of a stone wall may feel entirely natural. But an unexpected rough patch on bedding can stand out because it does not match what the hand or body anticipated. Sensory comfort often emerges when the qualities of an object are consistent enough to be understood. A woolen fabric may be coarse, but predictably so. A smooth floor may contain variations, but not set in sharp fragments. The brain learns the pattern and can reduce the attention given to it. Movement changes this pattern. When the hand remains on a surface, some touch receptors respond strongly at first, and then more quietly as the contact continues. This process helps explain why clothing can become less noticeable after it has been worn for a while. The pressure has not vanished, but the nervous system gives greater importance to changes than to sensations that remain constant and harmless. Steady contact may therefore recede into the background, while irregular contact continues to announce itself. A loose thread that moves with each breath may remain noticeable. So may fabric that repeatedly slides across the skin, a chair that rocks unpredictably, or a mattress that transfers every movement from one side to the other. The problem is not always the strength of the sensation. It may be its uncertainty. Predictable movement can feel very different. A chair that rocks in a slow, regular arc provides repeated signals with a clear rhythm. A suspended cradle moves away and returns. A train travels over joined sections of track with a pattern that can become familiar. Even footsteps heard from another room may fade from awareness when their pace remains steady and their direction is understood. Gentle repetition gives the brain an opportunity to anticipate the next sensation. This does not mean that rhythmic touch or movement is universally calming. Some people are sensitive to motion, and repeated vibration may be uncomfortable or distracting. The effect depends on speed, intensity, context, and whether the person can stop or change it. Control remains important. Touch that is expected and chosen is processed differently from touch that arrives without warning. A hand placed deliberately on a familiar blanket can explore its surface at leisure. The same fabric brushing unexpectedly against the neck in darkness may produce an immediate turn of attention. The material has not changed. The meaning of the contact has. Gentle pressure can also create a clear sense of the body's boundaries. A fitted garment, a tucked cover, or a cushion held against the side provides continuous information about where the body meets the environment. For some people, this broad contact may feel containing and orderly. Heavier coverings and weighted blankets are sometimes used for this reason. Research suggests that some individuals find them pleasant or report feeling more settled beneath them. But responses vary, and the evidence for treating sleep or anxiety conditions remains mixed. Weight can also become uncomfortable, restrictive, or too warm. It should not be treated as a universal solution. The more general principle is quieter. Pressure is often easier to tolerate when it is distributed, predictable, adjustable, and free from pain. Ordinary rooms contain many ways of shaping contact. Upholstery softens the meeting between the body and a wooden frame. Rugs change both the pressure and temperature felt beneath the feet. Curtains absorb slight movements of air before they reach the skin. Clothing creates a movable boundary between the body and surrounding surfaces. Over time, these materials develop signs of use. A cushion becomes slightly lower in one place. A wooden armrest grows smoother where hands have rested. Fabric softens through washing. The object begins to carry the shape of repeated contact. This wear can become part of familiarity. The body knows where the chair yields and where it remains firm. The hand finds the polished section of the rail. The feet recognize the transition from bare floor to rug before the eyes look down. Comfort develops through these modest agreements. The skin sends its stream of information. Surfaces answer with firmness, softness, movement, and resistance. The body shifts, tests, and adjusts until the contact no longer needs to be questioned. Then the texture remains, but attention moves elsewhere. The fabric still touches the skin. The cushion still supports its share of weight. The floor remains beneath the feet. Yet these sensations have become steady enough to be trusted, joining the quiet background of a place where the body no longer needs to examine every point at which it meets the world. Sound can remain present even when a room feels quiet. There may be air moving through a narrow opening, water passing through pipes, rain touching the roof, or a distant appliance settling into its regular hum. None of these sounds create silence, yet after a while, they may belong so completely to the surroundings that the mind no longer treats them as separate events. Quietness is not always the absence of sound. It can be the absence of sounds that demand interpretation. The hearing system remains active during rest. Vibrations enter the ear, are converted into nerve signals, and are examined by the brain for patterns, changes, and possible meaning. A familiar sound may be allowed to fade into the background, while a new or irregular one can bring attention forward almost immediately. This ability is useful. In an uncertain environment, a sudden change may matter more than a steady condition. A continuous breeze is usually less informative than the sharp crack of a branch. The even murmur of traffic may require less attention than one vehicle stopping unexpectedly nearby. The brain is especially sensitive to contrast, a sound beginning after silence, ending without warning, changing direction, or becoming suddenly louder. For this reason, an extremely silent room does not always feel more comfortable than one containing a soft, stable background sound. In near silence, very small noises may become prominent. A pipe cooling inside a wall, a floorboard shifting, or fabric moving against a bed can seem unusually distinct because there is little else to mask it. The mind may begin waiting for the next occurrence, particularly when the timing is irregular. A gentle background sound can reduce these contrasts. Rain, distant ventilation, leaves moving outside, or the low wash of a city far below may partially cover sharper noises. The sound does not remove them, but it narrows the difference between the background and the interruption. This effect is often called masking. It is one reason some people prefer a fan, a sound machine, or a slightly open window at night. The benefit does not depend on a mysterious frequency. It comes partly from providing a steady acoustic layer against which other noises seem less abrupt. Not everyone finds the same background pleasant. A fan that reassures one listener may irritate another. Rain may feel restful until it becomes heavy enough to suggest leaking gutters or difficult travel. Ocean recordings may be soothing to someone familiar with the coast and distracting to someone who notices the artificial repetition in the loop. Context changes the meaning of sound. A distant train can become part of a nightly routine when its route and timing are known. In an unfamiliar place, the same sound may lead the listener to wonder how close the tracks are. Footsteps in an upstairs apartment may be ignored when they follow a familiar evening pattern. But an unusual pause outside a door can attract immediate attention. The ear receives vibration, but the brain listens for causes. This is why identical volumes can produce very different experiences. A moderately loud, continuous waterfall may feel less intrusive than a much quieter tap that drips at unpredictable intervals. The waterfall is broad and stable. The dripping repeatedly creates a beginning, a brief silence, and another beginning. Each drop renews the pattern before the mind has fully stopped noticing it. Irregularity can keep attention slightly engaged. Steady rhythms, by contrast, become easier to anticipate. The soft turning of a washing machine in another room, wheels moving over a smooth rail, or an old clock marking time at an even pace may gradually seem less separate from the space around them. Prediction reduces the need to inspect every repetition, but regularity must not become too exact or too prominent. A loud mechanical pulse can feel controlling rather than comforting. A repeated sound with a sharp edge may remain noticeable, no matter how predictable it becomes. Comfort usually depends on moderation, enough stability to be understood, but not so much intensity that the sound occupies the whole field of attention. Rooms themselves alter what is heard. Hard, bare surfaces reflect sound. Stone, glass, plaster, and uncovered floors can allow footsteps and voices to travel, returning as faint echoes. In a large, empty room, even a small movement may appear larger because its sound continues after the movement has ended. Soft furnishings absorb part of this energy. Curtains, rugs, cushions, bedding, and upholstered furniture reduce some reflections, shortening the time sound remains in the room. A voice may seem closer and less sharp. Footsteps lose some of their brightness. Household activity becomes less likely to spread unchanged from one surface to another. This does not mean that every comfortable room must be heavily furnished. Too much absorption can make a space feel acoustically dull, and preferences vary. But the balance between reflection and absorption quietly shapes whether a room sounds exposed, lively, enclosed, or calm. Architecture influences sound before decoration is added. Thick walls can reduce noise from adjoining spaces. Doors create boundaries, although gaps around them may allow voices and light sounds to pass. High ceilings can produce spacious reverberation, while smaller rooms often make sounds feel nearer. Corridors guide footsteps. Courtyards carry conversation upward. Windows connect an interior to weather, birds, engines, and people outside. Privacy is partly acoustic. A room may feel visually sheltered while remaining uncomfortable if every movement can be heard elsewhere. When speech passes easily through a wall, people may lower their voices, change their movements, or remain aware of unseen listeners. The effort of being quiet can prevent the room itself from feeling quiet. By contrast, a closed door, a carpeted hallway, or enough distance between occupied spaces can reduce the need for self-monitoring. The person inside does not have to track every creak or wonder whether a small sound will disturb someone nearby. Control again plays a subtle role. The ability to close a window, lower the volume, move away from an appliance, or choose whether a door remains open can change the experience of sound. A noise that is tolerable for a few minutes may become frustrating when there is no way to escape it. Chosen sound often feels different from imposed sound. This helps explain the comfort of familiar audio rituals. Some people listen to a quiet radio program, the low voices of a conversation, or music they know well. Familiar material contains fewer surprises. The listener does not need to follow every word or wait for an unexpected change. Attention can rest lightly on the sound and then drift away. Yet voices can also hold attention because human speech carries meaning. Even when words are indistinct, the brain is prepared to notice tone, rhythm, and emotional change. A calm, even voice may remain in the background, while sudden laughter, argument, or urgency can bring the listener back toward alertness. Comfortable sound is therefore not simply soft sound. It is sound that feels understandable, proportionate, and unlikely to require action. As evening deepens, a home often develops its own acoustic shape. Activity becomes less frequent. Doors close more gently. Water runs for a final time. Machines complete their cycles and stop. Sounds from outside grow farther apart. What remains may be very quiet, but rarely silent. A building continues to contract as it cools. Air moves through vents. Rain travels from roof to gutter. Somewhere beyond the walls, another room contains another ordinary life. When these sounds are familiar and steady, they can provide a faint sense that the world is continuing without needing attention. The listener does not have to follow each movement. Nothing in the pattern suggests that a response is required, and little by little, hearing becomes less like searching and more like receiving. A field of gentle information, understood well enough that it can be allowed to pass. Light shapes comfort before we consciously decide whether a room feels bright or dim. It falls across walls, gathers on polished surfaces, disappears into fabric, and leaves some corners more visible than others. A ceiling light can make every object equally clear, while a shaded lamp creates a smaller island of illumination. The amount of light matters. but so do its direction, color, contrast, and movement. During the day, bright light helps support alertness. It makes fine detail easier to see and provides the body with information about the time of day. In the evening, many people begin to prefer softer illumination, not because dimness automatically causes relaxation, but because the visual environment asks less of the eyes and may better match the body's changing biological rhythm. Human circadian timing is influenced strongly by light. Specialized cells in the retina respond to illumination and send information to brain regions involved in coordinating daily cycles. These signals help the body distinguish day from night and influence the timing of sleepiness, alertness, hormone release, and temperature changes. Light does not act like a simple switch. Its effect depends on brightness, timing, duration, spectrum, and previous exposure. A bright source late in the evening may delay the body's preparation for sleep in some circumstances, while ordinary warm household light may have a smaller effect. Individual sensitivity also varies, and the same room can feel pleasantly dim to one person and insufficiently lit to another. Comfort usually depends on having enough light for the activity without creating unnecessary strain. When illumination is too low for reading, sewing, cooking, or moving safely, the eyes and attention may work harder. Words become less distinct. Objects blend with their backgrounds. The body may lean closer or change posture in order to see. Dimness is only restful when it still allows the environment to be understood. Too much brightness can create a different kind of effort. Strong overhead lighting may produce sharp shadows beneath the eyes and furniture. A bare bulb within the field of view can feel more intense than a brighter room in which the source itself is hidden. Light reflected from glass, glossy stone, metal, or a pale screen may create glare even when the overall room is not especially bright. Glare occurs when part of the visual field is much brighter than the surrounding area. The eyes must adapt to competing levels at once. A shaded corner may become difficult to see beside a brilliant window, while a small electronic display can seem unusually harsh in an otherwise dark bedroom. The discomfort may be subtle. A person squints slightly, turns the head away, or raises a hand to block the source. The object causing the strain may not be noticed immediately. There is simply a sense that the room does not allow the gaze to rest. Soft lighting often feels comfortable because it reduces extreme contrasts. A fabric shade spreads light over a wider area. A lamp aimed toward a wall uses the surface as a gentle reflector. Several low sources can create gradual transitions between illuminated and darker areas. The room remains visible, but its edges are less sharply divided. This is not only a matter of brightness. The apparent color of light changes the character of familiar materials. Light with a warmer appearance contains more of the amber and reddish tones commonly associated with fire, candles, and low sunlight. Cooler light has a bluer or more neutral appearance, often resembling daylight or an overcast sky. In the evening, warm illumination is frequently preferred because it resembles the natural shift towards sunset and may feel less alerting at moderate levels. Yet color preference is not universal. In hot climates, cooler-looking light may feel fresh and clean. Some tasks are easier under neutral illumination because colors and details appear clearer. A warm bulb that creates a pleasant atmosphere in one room may make another look dull or overly yellow. Comfort emerges when the light suits both the activity and the expectation of the space. A kitchen work surface may need clarity. A hallway needs enough illumination to reveal steps and obstacles. A resting corner may require only a small pool of light around a chair. When every part of a home is illuminated at the same intensity, the environment offers fewer signals that activity is changing. Gradual shifts can help the evening feel different from the day. Curtains are drawn. A bright work light is switched off. A smaller lamp remains near the wall. The objects in the room do not vanish, but they become less visually insistent. Attention is no longer pulled toward every shelf, doorway, and surface. Visual simplicity can support this effect. A crowded room is not necessarily uncomfortable, and familiar collections can create warmth and identity. But every visible object adds edges, patterns, colors, and possible meanings. During active hours, this richness may feel interesting. When the mind is tired, it can become more information than the eyes wish to process. Soft shadows can quiet some of that detail. They allow less important objects to recede, while leaving important paths and surfaces visible. The brain receives enough information to understand the room without examining everything it contains. Movement in light also matters. A stable lamp quickly becomes part of the background. A flickering source repeatedly changes brightness, producing small visual events that may continue to attract attention. Some flicker is obvious, as with a failing bulb. Other flicker can occur too rapidly to be clearly seen, yet may still cause discomfort or headaches in sensitive individuals. Moving shadows can be pleasant when their cause is gentle and understood. Leaves shifting outside a window may cast slow patterns across a wall. A curtain may briefly soften the moonlight and then release it again. The movement is irregular, but not mysterious, because the source can be recognized. Unexplained flashes are different. Headlights crossing a ceiling, a bright sign changing outside, or a device illuminating without warning can renew alertness each time they appear. The visual system is drawn towards sudden change, especially in darkness. This is why control over light can be as important as the light itself. Closing a blind, dimming a lamp, covering a small indicator, or turning a screen face down reduces the chance that brightness will arrive unexpectedly. The room becomes more predictable. Darkness is no longer something imposed. It is something arranged. Complete darkness is comfortable for some people, while others prefer a faint reference point. A low light near the floor can make the shape of a room easier to understand. A small gap in a curtain may provide orientation without filling the space. Familiar outlines can remain visible enough to show that the surroundings have not changed. Historically, darkness placed stronger limits on evening life. Candles, oil lamps, hearths, and later gaslighting provided local illumination rather than the broad, even brightness common in modern interiors. These sources could create warmth and intimacy, but they also produced smoke, soot, heat, fire risk, and uneven visibility. It would be easy to romanticize a room lit only by flame. In reality, reading and detailed work could be difficult. Fuel could be expensive, and poorly ventilated lighting can make indoor air unpleasant. Modern electric light brought safety, flexibility, and longer hours of useful activity. Comfort today often comes from having both possibilities, enough brightness when it is needed, and the ability to reduce it when the day is ending. A room slowly changes as lamps are lowered. Reflective surfaces become quiet. Windows turn dark and begin to mirror the interior. The most familiar furniture remains visible, while smaller details withdraw into shadow. The eyes no longer need to travel far. The visual world becomes contained, gentle, and easier to predict. Nothing has disappeared completely. It has simply stepped back, leaving only what is necessary for the body to recognize the room, move safely within it, and allow the evening to become less bright than the day. A familiar room is not only recognized by sight, it is known to the position of objects, the feel of surfaces, the way air moves near a doorway, and the sequence of small actions that usually happen there. A hand reaches for a switch before the eyes fully look. The body turns around the corner of a bed with little calculation. A drawer is opened with the same amount of force because its resistance has been learned. These ordinary movements reveal how deeply comfort can depend on memory. The brain builds expectations from repeated experience. It learns that a certain chair yields slightly on one side, that a floorboard near the wall makes a soft sound, and that evening light enters through a window at a particular angle. Over time, the room becomes less like a collection of separate objects and more like a stable pattern. Stable patterns reduce the need for attention. In an unfamiliar space, even a simple action may require more observation. The door handle turns differently. The bathroom light is not where expected. A table extends farther into the path than it first appeared. None of these details is necessarily unpleasant, but each one adds a small question. At home, many of these questions have already been answered. The body knows where to place its weight. The eyes know what shape the room will have in low light. The hand knows how far to reach for a glass, a book, or the edge of a curtain. This knowledge allows movement to become quieter and less deliberate. Routine works in a similar way. An evening routine may include lowering the lights, washing, changing clothes, closing a door, arranging bedding, or placing tomorrow's belongings in a familiar location. Each action is modest, and no single step causes comfort by itself. Their power often comes from sequence. One event follows another in a known order. Because the sequence has been repeated, it can become a signal that the demands of the day are changing. Work is no longer continuing. Travel is finished. No further decisions may be needed for a while. The body is entering a period with fewer tasks and fewer surprises. This does not require a perfectly fixed schedule. Human lives are rarely that orderly. A routine can remain useful even when its timing changes or some parts are skipped. What matters is that certain actions have become associated with a quieter part of the day. The brain is sensitive to such associations. A particular lamp may be used only in the evening. A certain piece of music may accompany reading. The smell of soap, the texture of sleepwear, or the sound of a cupboard closing may belong to a familiar chain of events. Through repetition, these details gain meaning beyond their physical properties. A scent is especially capable of carrying memory. Unlike an image that can be examined from a distance, smell enters with the air itself. Molecules reach receptors high inside the nose, and their signals travel through pathways closely connected with regions involved in emotion and memory. This does not mean every scent produces a powerful recollection, but familiar smells can sometimes evoke a place or period with surprising immediacy. A wooden chest may carry the faint scent of stored fabric. Rain entering through an open window may recall another season. Clean linen can become associated with a particular household, while the smell of dust warmed by an old radiator may belong to a room remembered from childhood. These associations are personal rather than universal. Lavender, cedar, laundry soap, coffee, wool, or old books may feel comforting to one person and unpleasant to another. A smell can carry warm memories, neutral memories, or difficult ones. Its effect depends not only on the chemical substance, but on the history attached to it. Comfort, therefore, cannot be designed by scent alone. The same is true of objects. A cup with a worn handle may feel more satisfying than a new one, because the hand already understands its shape. A blanket may be valued not for exceptional softness, but because it has accompanied many quiet evenings. A chair may remain preferred even after newer furniture arrives, simply because its proportions and small imperfections have become known. Familiar objects reduce uncertainty through use. They also carry evidence of continuity. A polished edge shows where fingers have rested. A faded patch marks years of sunlight. A repaired seam shows that something was kept rather than replaced. These signs can make an object feel settled within a life. This does not mean that old objects are always better. Worn furniture may lose support. Fabric may become rough or difficult to clean. Familiarity can preserve discomfort as easily as comfort. Sometimes replacing an object improves rest precisely because the body no longer needs to compensate for its faults. But when an object remains functional and well suited to the person, familiarity can deepen its ease. Personal spaces gather these relationships together. A room becomes personal through arrangement, not merely ownership. The height of a lamp, the distance between a chair and table, the direction a bed faces, and the location of frequently used items all reflect repeated choices. Even when the design is simple, it tells the body that the environment has been adjusted to fit known habits. This sense of fit can be comforting because it reduces friction. There is less reaching, searching, moving, and correcting. Necessary objects are where they are expected. Unnecessary ones can be moved away. The space supports a pattern of living that has already been practiced. Privacy adds another layer. To feel comfortable, many people need some control over whether they are seen, heard, entered upon, or interrupted. A closed door, a curtain, a screen, or simply a clear boundary between one area and another can reduce the need to monitor what others are doing. Privacy is not always isolation. A person may feel most at ease while hearing family members in another room or knowing that someone is nearby. The important feature is often the ability to choose the degree of contact. A half-open door can provide connection without full exposure. A chair placed at the edge of a shared room can allow participation without becoming the center of attention. A small corner beside a bookshelf can offer enclosure while remaining part of a larger household. Different people prefer different spatial relationships. Some feel comfortable in open rooms with long views and plenty of space around the body. Others prefer alcoves, high-backed chairs, canopies, or corners where fewer directions need to be watched. These preferences can be influenced by personality, experience, architecture, culture, and the activities taking place. Enclosure may feel protective when it creates clear boundaries. Yet too much enclosure can feel restrictive if movement, airflow, or choice is limited. Openness may feel freeing, but it can also feel exposed when there is nowhere to withdraw. Comfort often lies in having options. A room with both an open area and a sheltered corner allows the person to choose. Curtains can be drawn or released. Doors can remain open or closed. Furniture can face outward toward activity or inward toward a quieter surface. Choice allows the environment to change with the person. On one evening, conversation may feel welcome. On another, the same person may prefer a dim corner and the quiet presence of familiar objects. Comfort does not remain fixed because attention, fatigue, mood, temperature, and social needs are always shifting. The most supportive spaces are often not those that impose one perfect arrangement, but those that can be adjusted gently. A lamp can be moved closer. A chair can turn away from the window. A door can close against noise. A familiar blanket can be taken from its shelf. Each adjustment tells the body that the surroundings are responsive rather than indifferent. Then the room begins to feel less like a place that must be managed and more like a place that already understands its occupant. The objects remain ordinary. The routine remains simple. Yet repetition has joined them into a pattern of recognition. And within that pattern, the brain can spend less effort asking where things are, what comes next, and whether the environment will behave as expected. Comfort is often built into a room long before anyone sits down inside it. The height of a window, the thickness of a wall, the angle of a roof, and the distance between one piece of furniture and another all influence how a space feels. These choices guide light, air, sound, movement, and privacy. They shape whether the body must adapt to the room or whether the room quietly adapts to the body. Architecture begins by creating a boundary. A roof interrupts rain and direct sun. Walls slow the movement of air and separate one interior from another. Openings allow light, ventilation, and passage, but they also determine how exposed the interior remains to weather and activity outside. The earliest purpose of shelter was not luxury. It was protection from conditions that demanded too much from the body. Wind carried away heat. Rain soaked clothing and bedding. Strong sunlight raised surface temperatures. Insects, animals, and other people could enter unprotected spaces. A shelter reduced some of these pressures, though it did not always remove them. Many historical dwellings were smoky, damp, crowded, poorly lit, or difficult to heat. Comfort was limited by climate, available materials, fuel, labor, and wealth. Yet even simple structures reveal careful attempts to make the environment more manageable. An entrance might be turned away from prevailing wind. A sleeping area could be raised above a cold or damp floor. Thick walls stored heat during the day and released it slowly after sunset. Deep roof overhangs shaded openings in hot regions, while compact buildings reduced the surface through which warmth escaped in colder climates. These methods did not depend on mechanical systems. They used form, material, and orientation to moderate the exchange between indoors and outdoors. Modern buildings continued the same basic work, though often with insulation, sealed windows, heating, cooling, and controlled ventilation. When these systems function well, much of their effort remains unnoticed. The room simply stays within a usable range. Poor design becomes more obvious. A chair placed in a draft makes the neck and hands feel cool. A bed beside a poorly insulated wall may seem colder on one side. Sunlight entering through unshaded glass can create uncomfortable heat even when the air itself is moderate. A room with no path for warm air to escape may remain heavy, long after the day is cooled. Comfort depends not only on average conditions, but on how evenly they are distributed. Airflow is one example. Still air can feel peaceful when the temperature is suitable, yet it may also become stale or warm. Moving air can refresh the skin, remove heat, and carry away moisture. But a concentrated draft across the face or shoulders can become irritating, especially when the rest of the room is calm. Windows, doors, vents, and ceiling height influence these patterns. Air entering through one opening needs a route through or out of the space. When openings are placed effectively, movement may remain gentle and broad. When they are poorly positioned, air can rush through a narrow path, leaving some parts of the room untouched and others constantly exposed. Curtains alter this flow. So do screens, doors, furniture, and even bookshelves. A large piece of furniture can block a current of air or create a protected region behind it. A high-backed chair can reduce movement around the shoulders. A canopy or bed curtain can form a smaller environment within a larger room, though enclosure also affects ventilation and temperature. Furniture is therefore part of the room's climate as well as its appearance. It shapes posture, but it also creates distance, shelter, and direction. A sofa facing the center of a room encourages one kind of attention. The same sofa facing a window or fireplace creates another. Chairs arranged in a circle support conversation. A chair placed beside a wall allows the occupant to see the room while keeping fewer directions exposed. The body often responds to these arrangements without forming a clear opinion about them. A seat in the middle of a busy passage may feel uneasy because movement passes behind and beside it. A seat against a stable surface can feel more settled. A table between the body and an open area may create a modest boundary. The space has not become closed, but it has become easier to read. Clear paths also matter. When furniture leaves enough room to move without turning sideways, stepping over objects, or avoiding sharp corners, the body can travel with less preparation. Repeated obstacles create small demands on attention. A low table in an unexpected location may require constant monitoring, particularly in dim light. Comfortable circulation is not empty space for its own sake. It is space arranged around predictable movement. The scale of a room affects this experience. Large interiors can feel open, airy, and generous. They allow long sightlines and may prevent a sense of crowding. But they can also amplify sound, create uneven temperatures, and make individual activities feel exposed. Smaller rooms can be easier to warm and acoustically softer. Their boundaries are close enough to understand at a glance. Yet if they contain too many objects or offer no clear path, they may feel restrictive. Neither openness nor enclosure is universally preferable. The effect depends on proportion, use, and choice. A large room can contain smaller zones through rugs, lighting, shelves, or changes in ceiling height. A compact room can feel less confined when it has a view outward, adequate storage, and surfaces kept free from movement. Design often creates comfort by offering both refuge and connection. A window is a good example. It joins the interior to distance, weather, daylight, and change. At the same time, glass and framing maintain a physical boundary. A person can observe rain without becoming wet, watch branches move without feeling the full wind, or see evening arrive while remaining inside a protected space. This separation can be deeply satisfying because it allows contact without exposure. But windows also introduce glare, heat loss, heat gain, noise, and concerns about privacy. Curtains, shutters, blinds, deep frames, and exterior shading develop partly to control these effects. They allow the opening to become adjustable. A room feels different when its boundaries can respond. A shutter closes against bright afternoon sun. A curtain softens sound and reduces the sense of being visible from outside. A door blocks activity from a corridor. A screen allows air to pass while limiting insects. These elements give the occupant more than protection. They provide choices about how much of the outside world is allowed in. Materials influence the experience further. Wood often feels warmer to the touch than stone or metal in the same room because it conducts heat more slowly away from the skin. Stone can feel pleasantly cool in a hot climate and unwelcoming in winter. Clay surfaces can appear soft and matte, while polished metal reflects both light and surrounding color. Wool, cotton, linen, leather, foam, and synthetic fibers each handle pressure, moisture, air, and heat differently. None is automatically comfortable in every situation. A natural material may be rough, heavy, or difficult to maintain. A synthetic one may be light, resilient, and well suited to frequent use. What matters is how the material behaves in context. A thick rug changes the sound of footsteps and softens contact with the floor. A wooden wall reflects sound differently from a curtain. Upholstery reduces the hardness of a frame, but can also hold warmth. Smooth surfaces are often easier to clean, while textured ones may scatter light and feel visually softer. These effects accumulate. No single wall, chair, curtain, or window creates comfort by itself. The room becomes comfortable when many small features support one another. Light is moderated. Sound is absorbed without disappearing. Air moves without becoming a draft. Furniture holds the body while leaving room to rise. Boundaries protect without making the space feel sealed. The result may appear simple. A person enters, places something on a table, sits near a wall, and notices nothing remarkable. The room does not call attention to its design because its design is not interfering. It has already guided the air, softened the light, shaped the sound, and made a place for the body to remain. And in that quiet cooperation between structure and use, comfort becomes less like decoration and more like an invisible form of support. For much of human history, domestic comfort was created in small pockets rather than spread evenly through an entire home. A fire warmed the space close to it, but its influence weakened across the room. A bed enclosed by curtains could hold some warmth around the sleeper, while the floor beyond remained cold. A lamp illuminated a table, leaving the rest of the interior in shadow. Comfort was often local, temporary, and carefully maintained. This made household life a continuous practice of adjustment. People moved chairs toward heat, carried light from one task to another, hung fabric where air entered, and arranged sleeping places according to season. Furniture was not always placed for visual balance. It was positioned in response to drafts, smoke, dampness, sunlight, noise, and the daily movement of work. The modern idea of maintaining an entire building at a steady temperature would have seemed unusual in many earlier homes. Fuel demanded labor and money. Wood had to be cut, dried, carried, and stored. Coal needed delivery and produced dust. Peat had to be gathered in suitable regions. Even where fuel was available, much of its heat escaped through chimneys, roofs, walls, and unsealed openings. A hearth could be both valuable and difficult. It offered warmth, cooking, light, and a social center. Yet open fires also released smoke and particles, required frequent attention, and created uneven conditions. One side of the body might grow hot while the other remained cool. Sparks could damage fabric or flooring. Chimneys improved the removal of smoke, but they also drew warm air upward and out at the building. People responded with smaller forms of comfort. A warmed brick or stone could be wrapped in cloth and placed near the feet. Metal or ceramic warming vessels were filled with hot water or embers. Heavy curtains reduced airflow around windows and beds. Layers of clothing were worn indoors. Family members sometimes gathered in one occupied room, rather than attempting to heat every part of the house. These methods could make cold conditions more tolerable, but they should not be mistaken for effortless coziness. Warmed objects cooled. Fires needed fuel. Damp bedding remained difficult to dry. In poor housing, cold could be persistent and harmful. Comfort was closely connected to resources. Wealthier households could afford more fuel, thicker textiles, better glazing, larger quantities of furniture, and servants whose labor kept fires burning and rooms prepared. Less wealthy families often relied on shared spaces, reused materials, and careful conservation. A thick curtain or additional blanket could represent significant value. Textiles gradually became central to the idea of a comfortable interior. A bare wooden bench became easier to use when covered with a cushion. A hard bed frame could be softened with straw, wool, feathers, hair, or layered cloth. Wall hangings reduced some drafts and changed the acoustics of stone or plastered rooms. Floor coverings separated feet from cold surfaces and absorbed the sound of movement. These materials did more than decorate. They altered the physical exchange between the body and the building. Bedding shows this clearly. Earlier mattresses were filled with whatever suitable material was available, including straw, chaff, wool, feathers, cotton, horsehair, or plant fibers. The quality varied greatly. Loose fillings shifted during use and needed to be shaken, turned, dried, or replaced. Straw could compress and become uneven. Feather beds could be warm and soft, but expensive, heavy, and difficult to maintain. A bed was not a single object in the modern sense. It was a layered arrangement. A supporting frame held ropes, boards, or woven material. Above this came mattresses or filled sacks, then sheets, blankets, covers, and sometimes curtains. Each layer performed a different task, supporting weight, reducing pressure, preserving warmth, protecting more costly materials, or creating privacy. The sleeping surface changed through the night and through the year. Ropes loosened. Fillings moved. Moisture accumulated. Insects could find shelter in seams and fibers. Maintaining a bed required airing, cleaning, turning, tightening, and repair. Later developments brought more consistent support. Coiled springs, improved weaving, industrially produced fillings, and eventually foams and engineered materials allowed mattresses to be manufactured with greater uniformity. These changes did not produce one universally perfect bed, but they expanded the range of firmness, resilience, ventilation, and shape available to ordinary households. The history of the chair followed a similar path. For long periods, many people sat on stools, benches, chests, or simple wooden seats. Upholstered chairs required extra materials and skilled labor. As production expanded, padded seating became more widely available. Springs, webbing, stuffing, and shaped frames allowed furniture to support the body in more specialized ways. A chair could now be designed for upright dining, desk work, conversation, reading, or reclining. This specialization reflected changing ideas about domestic life. Rooms increasingly became associated with particular activities. Cooking moved away from formal reception. Sleeping became more private in many households. Parlors, studies, dining rooms, and bedrooms developed their own furniture, lighting, and expected behavior. These divisions were never universal. Many homes remained crowded or used one room for several purposes. But the gradual separation of activities allowed environments to be adjusted more precisely. A work surface could be brightly lit while a nearby resting area remained subdued. A bedroom could be protected from kitchen smells and social activity. Doors and corridors could separate noise, although they also increased the space that needed heating and maintenance. Industrial production changed comfort again by making domestic goods more numerous and consistent. Factory-made cloth reduced the cost of some bedding and curtains. Standardized glass made larger windows possible. Cast iron stoves and radiators distributed heat differently from open hearths. Gas and electric lighting extended useful hours after sunset. Piped water reduced the labor of carrying it into the home. Each improvement brought new complications. Stoves could overheat small rooms. Gas lighting consumed oxygen and released heat and pollutants. Early electric systems were not always reliable or safe. Large windows admitted daylight but also lost heat. Heavy upholstered furniture collected dust in environments where cleaning remained laborious. Comfort rarely advanced in a straight line. One problem was solved while another became visible. As heating improved, expectations changed. A temperature once accepted as ordinary might later be considered unpleasant. As artificial lighting became brighter, people could read and work more easily. But evenings also became less clearly separated from daytime activity. As homes filled with soft furnishings, they became acoustically quieter, but harder to ventilate and clean. This changing standard continues today. Air conditioning, central heating, sealed construction, adjustable beds, synthetic insulation, and responsive lighting offer forms of control unavailable to most earlier households. Yet modern comfort still depends on maintenance, energy, cost, and good design. A highly controlled building can feel uncomfortable when the air is too dry. Windows cannot open, systems are noisy, or occupants have little influence over the settings. The history of comfort is therefore not simply a history of increasing softness or warmth. It is a history of learning how to distribute support, heat, light, privacy, and choice. It moves from one warm place beside a fire toward rooms in which conditions can be adjusted more evenly. It moves from loose fillings and rigid benches toward surfaces shaped around the resting body. And beneath every invention remains the same quiet aim: to reduce the work required to remain indoors so that shelter becomes more than protection and gradually becomes a place where the body can set down some of its effort. Comfort is never entirely universal. A room that feels warm and welcoming to one person may feel close and airless to another. The sound of rain may suggest shelter, while the same sound can remind someone else of leaking roofs, difficult travel, or restless nights. Even the weight of a blanket, the firmness of a bed, and the amount of light left in a hallway can carry different meanings from one life to the next. The body brings its biology into every environment, but it also brings experience. Climate is one of the earliest teachers. People who grow up in hot, humid regions often learn ways of finding relief that differ from those developed in colder places. Comfort may come from air moving across the skin, from shaded courtyards, cool floors, loose clothing, and spaces that remain open after sunset. In colder climates, comfort may be associated with insulation, compact rooms, layered fabrics, and the careful preservation of heat. These preferences are partly practical. A stone floor can feel refreshing where the air remains warm for much of the year. In winter, the same surface may draw heat quickly from bare feet. Heavy curtains can reduce drafts in a cold season, yet feel oppressive when the room needs ventilation. A small enclosed space may be economical to warm, while a larger open space may allow hot air to rise away from occupied areas. Over generations, practical responses can become cultural habits. Homes are built with familiar proportions. Meals happen at certain times. Windows are opened or closed according to learned expectations about weather, privacy, insects, and noise. People grow accustomed to particular fabrics, sleeping arrangements, and ways of sharing space. These habits can continue even after the original conditions change. Someone raised in a cold house may continue to prefer thick bedding in a well-heated apartment. Another person may need moving air at night, not because the room is dangerously warm, but because the sensation has always accompanied sleep. A family may gather closely in one room because shared warmth once mattered, and the pattern later becomes a form of social comfort. Culture gives physical conditions additional meaning. Sitting close together may feel reassuring in one setting and intrusive in another. A closed bedroom door may represent privacy, while elsewhere it may suggest distance from the household. Quietness can be valued as peaceful independence, or it can feel empty when a person is accustomed to conversation, street sounds, animals, or several generations living nearby. Even personal space is learned partly through repeated social experience. The distance that feels natural during conversation varies across communities and situations. So does the meaning of eye contact, physical touch, shared furniture, and silence. Comfort depends not only on what the body senses, but on whether those sensations fit the social expectations of the moment. This is why design rules cannot guarantee ease for everyone. A carefully arranged room may use soft colors, rounded furniture, and gentle lighting, yet still feel impersonal to someone who prefers bright surfaces and clear structure. A minimalist interior may reduce visual information for one person while making another feel that something is missing. A room filled with books, textiles, photographs, and small objects may seem crowded to one visitor and deeply settled to another. The nervous system does not respond to style labels. It responds to the actual pattern of sensation, memory, meaning, and control. Individual sensitivity adds further variation. Some people notice sound changes that others barely register. Some are strongly aware of seams, labels, or rough fibers against the skin. Others are more affected by glare, perfume, stagnant air, or small changes in temperature. Fatigue can increase this sensitivity, making a sound or texture that was tolerable during the day feel difficult in the evening. Comfort can therefore change without the room changing at all. After physical effort, firmness may feel supportive. During illness, the same firmness may feel harsh. On a busy day, lively background conversation may provide pleasant company. Later, it may become too much information. A scent that once seemed faint can become overwhelming when the air is warm where the body is tired. The environment is stable, but the person is not. This helps separate genuine comfort from simple sensory intensity. Pleasant sensations can become excessive when they are made stronger and stronger. More warmth does not always produce more ease. A softer surface can eventually remove needed support. Louder music may stop masking other sounds and begin demanding attention itself. A strong fragrance can overpower the subtler smell of the room. Comfort often exists near the middle of a range. There is enough stimulation to prevent emptiness or strain, but not so much that the senses must defend themselves against it. Light is sufficient without glare. Pressure is present without restriction. Sound gives continuity without filling every moment. Warmth is held without becoming trapped. The exact middle is different for each person and each situation. Novelty also changes the balance. During the day, new sensations can be enjoyable because they invite curiosity. An unfamiliar building, a new fabric, a different meal, or an unexpected view may bring attention fully into the present. The brain becomes active because there is something to learn. At night, the same novelty may require more alertness than the person wishes to give. A new room contains details that have not yet become predictable. The heating begins at an unknown hour. Light enters from an unfamiliar direction. The sounds of neighbors, plumbing, and traffic have not been assigned their ordinary meanings. Even a more luxurious bed may feel less restful at first, because the body has not learned how it responds. Familiarity reduces this learning task. It does not make the environment objectively better. It makes it easier to interpret. The mind already knows which sounds can be ignored, where objects are located, and how the air is likely to change before morning. Over several nights, an unfamiliar place may become easier. The strange sound in the wall is recognized as a pipe. The mattress no longer requires conscious adjustment. The shape of the room in darkness becomes known. Comfort is being learned. This process also explains why people carry small familiar objects while traveling. A pillowcase, a piece of clothing, a book, or a repeated eating habit can create continuity inside a new environment. The object does not transform the room, but it gives memory something stable to hold. Through such details, the unknown space becomes slightly less unknown. Comfort grows where biology, culture, and personal history meet. It cannot be reduced to one temperature, one material, or one design. It is a moving agreement between present sensation and everything the body has learned to expect. And when the agreement is close enough, the environment begins to feel less like a place that must be interpreted, and more like a place in which the body already knows how to remain. A comfortable environment does not need to remain perfectly still. It only needs to change in ways that feel understandable and manageable. A room cools after sunset. Outside traffic becomes less frequent. The sound of water moves briefly through a pipe and then stops. Someone walks along a hallway, closes a door, and settles elsewhere in the building. These changes do not necessarily disturb comfort because they belong to a pattern that can be recognized. What often matters is not the complete absence of change, but the absence of change that seems unexplained or uncontrollable. The brain is continuously estimating what may happen next. It compares present information with earlier experience and adjusts attention according to uncertainty. When an environment behaves as expected, there is less reason to examine every detail. When it changes without a clear pattern, attention may remain slightly elevated. This process is not always conscious. A person may not actively think about the ventilation system turning on and off. Yet if it begins with a sudden metallic sound at irregular intervals, the body may continue noticing it. If the same system starts gradually and follows a familiar schedule, it can disappear more easily into the background. The difference lies partly in predictability. Predictability is sometimes confused with monotony, but they are not the same. A predictable environment can contain variation. Rain changes in intensity. Flames shift within a fireplace. Shadows move as branches sway. A familiar voice changes in pitch and rhythm. These patterns are not perfectly repetitive, yet their range of possible change is understood. Rain may soften or grow stronger, but it still sounds like rain. A curtain may lift and settle, but it remains connected to the same current of air. The mind does not need to invent a new explanation each time. Comfort often grows when variation stays within expected boundaries. Control can strengthen this feeling. A person who can open a window, move away from a draft, or reduce a sound may tolerate the original condition more easily than someone who has no choice. The window does not need to be opened. The important fact is that it can be. This possibility changes the relationship between the person and the environment. An unwanted sound may feel more intrusive when there is no way to leave the room or close a door. A bright light may become more tiring when it cannot be dimmed. A chair may feel less suitable when its position is fixed and no alternative seat is available. Control does not guarantee comfort, but lack of control can make even moderate discomfort harder to ignore. Environmental psychology has often found that perceived choice matters alongside physical conditions. People tend to respond more positively when they can adjust temperature, lighting, airflow, privacy, or seating to suit their needs. The adjustment may be small, but it confirms that the space is responsive. This is visible in ordinary habits. A person turns a lamp slightly toward the wall. A curtain is opened just enough to admit air without exposing the whole window. A cushion is placed behind the lower back. A door remains partly closed rather than fully shut. Each action creates a more precise fit between the surroundings and the person using them. The ability to withdraw is another form of control. Shared spaces can be pleasant because they provide company, familiar activity, and the soft awareness of others nearby. But comfort may depend on knowing that solitude is available. A private room, a sheltered seat, or even a pair of headphones can create a temporary boundary around attention. Boundaries reduce the number of signals that must be monitored. In an open public place, the body may track movement from several directions. People approach, voices change, doors open, and objects pass through the field of view. Much of this information is harmless, but it remains relevant because the space is shared. Protected position reduces some of that work. A wall behind a seat removes one direction from consideration. A canopy limits the visible area above. Curtains narrow the view from outside. A high-backed chair creates a small acoustic and visual enclosure around the head and shoulders. These features do not create absolute safety. Their effect is subtler. They make the surrounding space easier to define. Humans often prefer places that offer both shelter and a view outward. A seat beside a wall facing the room allows the occupant to observe activity without being surrounded by it. A window alcove provides a boundary while preserving contact with the outside. A porch stands between interior shelter and open air. Such spaces combine refuge with awareness. Too much exposure can feel demanding, but complete enclosure may also become uncomfortable. A person may want to see the doorway, hear nearby movement, or know what is happening beyond a partition. Comfort can depend on receiving enough information to remain oriented while avoiding more information than is useful. This balance shifts with circumstances. During conversation, a central seat may feel natural. During fatigue, a place near the edge may feel easier. In daylight, an open curtain may provide a reassuring view. At night, the same uncovered window may feel too reflective or exposed. The environment has not acquired a permanent emotional meaning. Its features are being interpreted according to current needs. A sense of order can also reduce uncertainty. Order does not require immaculate surfaces or empty rooms. It means that the arrangement can be understood. Frequently used objects have recognizable places. Paths remain clear. Items are grouped in ways that match their purpose. A crowded desk may feel comfortable to the person who knows where everything is. A carefully minimalist room may feel confusing if nothing reveals how it is meant to be used. Visual simplicity helps only when it supports orientation rather than removing useful cues. The brain prefers environments that can be learned. A coat hanging near an entrance explains where outdoor clothing belongs. A lamp beside a chair suggests reading or quiet work. A folded cover at the foot of a bed remains available if the temperature falls. These objects make future actions easier to anticipate. Preparation is itself a form of comfort. A glass of water placed nearby means there will be no need to search later. Clothing arranged for morning reduces one small decision. A device set to silent prevents an unexpected alert. None of these actions changes the present sensation very much, yet they reduce the number of possible interruptions ahead. The mind does not need to keep unfinished tasks as close to the surface. In this way, comfort can extend beyond the immediate moment. It includes confidence that the next few moments are unlikely to demand a sudden response. The room may still contain movement, sound, and change, but its boundaries are clear. Its controls are accessible. Necessary objects are available, and ordinary events follow patterns that have been seen before. The world has not become perfectly certain. It has simply become certain enough. And when uncertainty falls below the level that requires continuous attention, the body can begin to use its energy differently. Muscles hold less readiness. The senses stop searching for the source of every small change. Awareness remains present, but it no longer needs to stand at the doorway of every possibility. The room continues around the resting body, responsive, familiar, and quietly within reach. The body is rarely as still as it appears. Even in a quiet chair, muscles make small adjustments. These movements are so modest that they often pass unnoticed, yet together they reveal how much work is involved in simply holding a position. Comfort grows when less of that work is necessary. To remain upright, the body must resist gravity. Muscles around the spine, hips, neck, and shoulders maintain a changing pattern of tension. They do not all contract strongly at once. Instead, they cooperate in small amounts, responding to balance, movement, and the support offered by nearby surfaces. A well-supported posture allows some of this effort to be transferred. The back of a chair receives part of the body's weight. An armrest reduces the need to hold the shoulders and arms in position. The floor supports the feet, which in turn can help stabilize the legs and pelvis. A headrest may reduce the work of keeping the head from drifting backward or to one side. When support is poorly placed, the body often compensates. A seat that is too high may leave the feet without stable contact. The legs then carry pressure differently, and the body may slide forward in search of a firmer base. A table that is too low can encourage the neck and upper back to bend for long periods. A cushion that pushes the head too far forward may feel soft at first, while gradually increasing effort elsewhere. Discomfort sometimes begins not with a strong sensation, but with accumulated work. One muscle group remains slightly active for too long. A joint stays near the edge of its comfortable range. Weight gathers beneath one hip or shoulder. The body responds with fidgeting, stretching, crossing and uncrossing the legs, or changing sides. These movements are not failures to relax, they are corrections. The nervous system receives information from muscles, tendons, and joints about position and movement. This sense, often called proprioception, helps the body know where its parts are without needing to look at them. It allows a person to reach for a blanket in darkness, adjust a pillow behind the head, or place a foot on the floor while rising from bed. During rest, proprioceptive signals help the body judge whether a position is stable. A stable position does not mean that every part is fixed. It means that the body can predict how weight will be supported if it shifts slightly. A firm edge beneath the feet, a broad surface behind the back, or a cushion beneath the knees can make the arrangement easier to understand. The body knows where resistance will be found. This may be one reason loosely balanced positions can remain tiring even when they look relaxed. A person leaning partly against an armrest may need to keep several muscles active to prevent further sliding. A neck resting at an unusual angle may require repeated correction each time the head begins to fall. True physical ease often feels less dramatic. The body settles into alignment without being forced to hold it. There is no single perfect posture that suits every person or every moment. Bodies differ in proportion, mobility, injury history, strength, and habit. A position that feels restful for 20 minutes may become uncomfortable after an hour. Even a carefully designed chair cannot remove the need to move indefinitely. Comfort is helped by variation. Standing after sitting changes where pressure is carried. Turning in bed allows compressed areas of skin and tissue to recover. Stretching the arms alters the work around the shoulders. A brief walk changes circulation and gives the joints a different pattern of movement. The body is designed for changing positions, rather than remaining in one arrangement without end. This is also why a comfortable resting place allows movement instead of preventing it. Bedding that is too restrictive can make turning difficult. Deep upholstery may surround the body pleasantly, but require effort when standing. A narrow seat may offer support while leaving little room to shift. Ease includes the ability to leave a posture as well as enter it. The transition into rest can be particularly revealing. At first, someone may sit upright, still carrying the shape of the day. The hands remain ready to move. The feet are placed for standing. The head is held above the shoulders as attention remains directed outward. Then the body begins to transfer more weight. The back meets the chair. The legs extend or fold into a more stable position. The hands stop holding objects. The head finds support. Each change reduces the number of actions that can begin immediately, and the posture becomes less prepared for movement. This does not make the body helpless. It simply lowers readiness. Breathing may also become easier when the trunk is supported without being compressed. Tight clothing, a sharply bent waist, or pressure against the abdomen can make each breath feel more noticeable. A position that allows the ribs and diaphragm to move freely may require less effort and less attention. The rhythm of breathing then becomes one of many gentle movements within the resting body. It lifts fabric slightly. It changes contact between the back and the chair. It moves the abdomen beneath a blanket. These repeated changes are produced from within rather than imposed by the environment, and their familiarity can make them easy to ignore. Balance continues even when lying down. The inner ear contains structures that help detect head movement and orientation. When the body is placed on a stable surface, these signals become relatively quiet. When a surface sways, tilts, or vibrates, the balance system continues to track the motion, slow. Regular movement can feel pleasant to some people because it remains predictable. Rocking chairs, hammocks, boats in calm water, and vehicles moving steadily along a smooth route all create repeated changes in orientation. The body can learn the pattern and adjust to it. For others, the same movement may cause unease or motion sickness. Comfort depends on whether visual information, inner ear signals, and bodily expectations agree. When they conflict, even gentle movement can become difficult. Stillness, too, is not universally comfortable. After a long period of mental concentration, walking slowly through a familiar room may feel easier than sitting. Repeated footsteps provide alternating pressure through the feet and legs. The arms move naturally. The body uses energy, but the pattern is simple and well known. Physical comfort is therefore not always complete inactivity. It can be movement without strain, effort without uncertainty, and posture without unnecessary correction. A supportive environment gives the body choices between these states. There is a place to sit upright, somewhere to lean, enough room to stretch, and a surface on which the whole body can be carried. No single position must be maintained beyond its usefulness. Gradually, the body finds the arrangement that asks the least from it at that moment. Weight passes into the chair, mattress, floor, or cushion. Muscles continue their quiet work, but they no longer need to hold every part alone. Small adjustments become less frequent. The body does not become motionless. It simply stops carrying more than it needs to carry. Comfort often becomes most noticeable during a transition. A door closes behind someone who has been outside in wind, traffic, bright light, or crowded movement. Shoes are removed. A coat is set down. The sound of the street becomes quieter, and the body begins to adjust to an interior pace. The room may not be especially warm, soft, or silent. Its comfort comes partly from contrast. Outside, attention had to remain distributed. Surfaces change beneath the feet. Vehicles move nearby. Weather touched the skin. Other people approached and passed. Inside, the number of immediate demands becomes smaller. The environment has clearer boundaries, familiar rules, and fewer possible directions from which something new may arrive. Crossing a threshold allows the brain to update its expectations. The body does not always change state at once. Muscles may remain prepared for movement even after movement is no longer necessary. Breathing may continue at the rhythm established by walking. The eyes may still scan quickly, carrying the brightness and complexity of the outside world into the quieter interior. Then ordinary actions begin to mark the change. Keys are placed in a known location. A bag leaves the shoulder. Tight clothing is loosened. hands are washed beneath water of a familiar temperature. Each action reduces a small burden or closes a task that was previously unfinished. These rituals are practical, but they also create a boundary in time. The day before entering the room is different from the period after arrival. The transition is not created by one dramatic event. It is built from a sequence of modest sensory changes, less weight on the body, fewer layers, lower sound, softer light, slower movement. Removing outdoor clothing can be especially noticeable because clothing holds the conditions of the world just left behind. A coat may carry cool air, fine moisture, dust, or the smell of streets and public places. Shoes contain pressure and heat from walking. A bag pulls on one side of the body. When these objects are removed, the skin and muscles receive a new pattern of sensation. The body becomes aware of its own weight differently. Indoor clothing is often chosen not only for temperature, but for reduced restriction. Waistbands loosen. Fabrics bend more easily at the knees and elbows. The feet spread against the floor without the structure of shoes around them. This change is culturally shaped. In some homes, removing footwear at the entrance is expected. In others, shoes remain on. The action may be linked to cleanliness, floor materials, climate, or tradition, whatever the custom. Repeated behavior at the doorway can become a strong signal that one kind of environment has ended and another has begun. Architecture sometimes supports this transition with a distinct entrance space. A porch, vestibule, hall, mudroom, or covered passage stands between outdoors and the main interior. These places help manage weather and dirt, but they also slow movement. An outer door closes before an inner one opens. Wet clothing can be left behind. Cold air is prevented from moving directly into occupied rooms. The threshold becomes a buffer. In hot regions, shaded verandas, courtyards, and covered walkways can serve a related purpose. They allow the body to move gradually between bright heat and darker interiors. Eyes begin adapting before entering the deepest shade. Air may continue to circulate while direct sunlight is reduced. Gradual transitions are often easier for the senses than sudden ones. Entering a very bright room from darkness can be uncomfortable because the eyes need time to adjust. Stepping directly from intense heat into powerful cooling may feel startling. A loud interior reach from a quiet street can keep attention elevated rather than allowing it to settle. Intermediate spaces reduce the size of these contrasts. Curtains filter light instead of blocking it entirely. A hallway separates an active kitchen from a quiet bedroom. A landing interrupts a staircase. A small lamp between two darker rooms helps the eyes move safely from one to the other. Comfort can be designed as a sequence rather than a single condition. The same is true of time. A day filled with decisions may not end comfortably if activity stops without warning. The mind can continue moving through unfinished conversations, plans, and tasks, even when the body has become still. A short period of simple, repeated activity may provide a gentler descent. Preparing a drink, folding clothing, washing dishes, or arranging a room can serve this purpose when the task is undemanding. The actions occupy attention without requiring much novelty. They create visible completion. The cup is filled, the surface is cleared, the object is returned to its place. Not every routine feels comforting. Chores can be tiring, and repeated obligations may carry stress rather than ease. The effect depends on whether the action feels manageable and whether it leads toward a period of reduced demand. A comforting transition has an end. The light is turned off in one room. The last necessary message is answered. A door is closed. The body receives evidence that a portion of the day is complete. Modern environments often weaken these boundaries. Work can continue on the same screen used for entertainment. Messages arrive in bedrooms. Bright displays bring distant activity into private spaces. The physical journey between workplace and home may be only a few steps, or may not exist at all. Without a clear threshold, the nervous system receives fewer signals that expectations have changed. People often create artificial boundaries in response. A computer is closed and moved out of sight. Workflows are changed even when no journey has taken place. A short walk circles the neighborhood before returning home. A particular room is left after a certain hour. These actions do not erase the concerns of the day, but they give them a location and an ending point. Comfort benefits from this separation, because the body does not need to remain equally prepared for every role at once. The posture used for work can be released. The voice no longer needs to answer. The eyes no longer need to follow rapid changes. The environment begins to support fewer kinds of action. A resting space becomes more comfortable when it is not constantly asking to become something else. A bed used for messages, meals, work, and planning may carry many different expectations. A chair associated only with reading or quiet listening may be easier for the brain to interpret. Repeated use teaches what kind of attention belongs there. This does not require a large home or a separate room for every activity. Even a small change can create distinction. A lamp is turned in a different direction. A cloth covers work materials. A cushion is moved to mark the beginning of rest. The space remains physically the same, but its meaning shifts. Eventually, transition gives way to arrival. Outdoor sounds have become distant. Clothing no longer pulls at the shoulders. The eyes have adjusted to the room. Objects used during the day have been placed aside, and the remaining environment asks for fewer responses. Comfort enters not as an object, but as a gradual reduction. One layer of effort is removed, then another. One role becomes quieter. One threshold closes behind the body. And after enough small endings, the present space begins to feel complete in itself. Comfort can depend on what is absent as much as on what is present. A room may contain a good chair, pleasant light, and suitable warmth, yet still feel difficult to settle into when the air carries too many smells. Surfaces feel sticky, or unfinished tasks remain visible in every direction. None of these details needs to be severe. Small forms of sensory friction can accumulate until the environment seems to ask for more attention than it gives back. Cleanliness affects comfort partly through this reduction of uncertainty. A freshly cleared surface is easier to understand. There are fewer objects to avoid, fewer substances whose source is unclear, and fewer signs that something may need immediate attention. The body can place a hand, a cup, or a piece of clothing without first checking what is already there. This does not mean that a comfortable home must be spotless. Perfect order can require exhausting labor, and a room arranged too carefully may feel as though nothing can be touched. Many comfortable spaces contain books left open, clothing resting on a chair, or familiar objects gathered in uneven groups. The difference is often whether the disorder remains usable and understood. A pile of papers may be harmless when the person knows what it contains. The same pile becomes mentally louder when it represents several forgotten decisions. A cup on a table may belong to the present evening. Several old cups may suggest work that has been postponed. Objects can therefore carry unfinished time. When the eyes meet them, the brain does not see shape and color alone. It recognizes possible actions. A letter may need answering. Laundry may need folding. A tool may need returning. A device may contain messages not yet read. These possibilities can make an environment feel active even when nothing is moving. Putting an object away removes more than visual detail. It sometimes closes a small loop of expectation. The item no longer waits in the middle of the room, quietly suggesting what should happen next. This is one reason simple tidying can feel satisfying near the end of the day. It restores clear surfaces and predictable paths. It reduces the number of objects that appear to be asking for a decision. But tidying becomes comforting only while it remains manageable. If every evening turns into a long attempt to achieve perfection, the activity creates more demand than it removes. Comfort usually comes from enough order to support use, not from eliminating every sign of life. Maintenance works in a similar way. A loose handle, a flickering bulb, or a window that will not close properly may be easy to tolerate for a short time. Over weeks, each becomes a repeated interruption. The person must remember to lift the handle carefully, avoid the unstable chair, or place something beneath the gap. The building no longer supports ordinary action without negotiation. Repair restores predictability. A drawer opens without catching. A floorboard remains firm. A tap stops dripping after it is turned off. The object becomes quiet again because it behaves as expected. Much of domestic comfort is created by this unnoticed reliability. Water arrives where it should. Doors remain closed when closed. Shelves carry their loads. Fabrics are dry. Electrical systems work without visible effort. When these ordinary functions fail, attention returns to them immediately. The comfortable home is not simply furnished, it is maintained. Air quality also shapes ease in ways that are not always obvious at first. A room may feel heavy after people have occupied it for hours. Cooking, breathing, cleaning products, damp fabric, smoke, and building materials all contribute substances to indoor air. Ventilation replaces some of that air and helps remove moisture and odors. Opening a window can change the atmosphere within minutes, though outdoor conditions may not always make this practical. Traffic pollution, smoke, pollen, insects, heat, cold, or noise can make open ventilation uncomfortable. Mechanical systems can help, but they too need suitable design and maintenance. Freshness is therefore not a single smell. In fact, heavily perfumed air can hide one odor while adding another layer of stimulation. Strong fragrances may be pleasant to some people, but they can also cause discomfort, especially in enclosed spaces or for those who are sensitive to them. Comfortable air often attracts little attention. It does not feel excessively dry or humid. It carries no urgent evidence of dampness, burning, decay, or chemical irritation. Breathing through the room does not become a sensory event that needs to be interpreted. Humidity quietly changes the behavior of materials and skin. When air is very dry, the eyes, nose, or throat may feel irritated, and static electricity becomes more noticeable. When humidity is high, moisture evaporates more slowly from the skin. Fabric can feel clammy, and rooms may develop musty odors if dampness persists. Moderate conditions are often easier, though the preferred range varies with temperature, health, climate, and personal adaptation. Moisture also affects the sense of care within a building. A dry towel, aired bedding, and clothing that is fully dried offer predictable contact. Damp textiles feel cooler because they transfer heat differently and can keep the skin moist. A room with persistent condensation may feel less sheltered because the boundary between indoors and weather no longer seems complete. Domestic routines developed partly to manage this moisture. Bedding was aired near windows or outdoors. Rugs and mattresses were lifted. Clothing was placed where warmth and airflow could reach it. These practices demanded labor, but they reduced odors, dampness, and the discomfort of materials that never fully dried. Modern machines perform some of this work more quickly, yet the principle remains the same. Comfort depends on materials returning to a stable, usable condition. Even dust changes the sensory character of a room. A thin layer on a surface may be barely visible, but it can alter smell, texture, and light. Dust collects fibers, soil particles, skin cells, pollen, and many other small materials from ordinary life. Removing some of it can make surfaces feel clearer and reduce irritation for certain people, particularly those with allergies. Still, the aim is not sterility. Human homes are living environments. They contain microorganisms, fibers, traces of cooking, outdoor soil, and evidence of use. Complete removal is neither possible nor necessary. Comfort is more often found in balance, enough cleaning to prevent irritation and decay without turning the home into a place of constant vigilance. There is a quiet difference between care and control. Care keeps the environment functional. It washes what touches the skin, clears what blocks movement, repairs what has become unreliable, and allows air and materials to recover from daily use. Control tries to prevent every mark, every misplaced object, and every sign of change. The first supports rest. The second can make rest feel undeserved. A comfortable room is allowed to show that someone lives there. A cushion may remain slightly compressed. A book may wait beside a chair. A faint mark on a wooden table may record years of ordinary use. Yet beneath these signs, the space continues to function. Surfaces are available. Air can move. Fabrics are dry. Objects behave as expected. Nothing is perfect, and nothing needs to be. The room has simply been cared for enough that its small imperfections no longer feel like warnings. They become part of its texture, while the larger pattern remains dependable, clean enough, clear enough, and ready to receive the body without adding another task. Comfort is not a single sensation waiting to be discovered inside a particular room, object, or routine. It is a quiet agreement that develops over time. The body brings its changing needs. The environment offers warmth or coolness, support or resistance, sound or stillness, openness or shelter. Memory adds another layer, comparing the present moment with places, materials, and patterns already known. Attention listens to all of this, usually without words, and decides how much of the world still needs to be watched. Sometimes that decision changes very slowly. Nothing announces that vigilance has begun to soften. There is only a gradual reduction in effort. The hands stop adjusting what they are holding. The eyes remain in one place for a little longer. The body allows more of its weight to pass into the surface beneath it. The room has not become perfectly silent, perfectly warm, or perfectly arranged. It has simply become sufficiently understandable. This may be the deepest quality of comfort. It asks for less interpretation. The body does not have to wonder whether the surface will remain stable. The ears do not need to examine every distant movement. The eyes no longer travel toward each small source of light. The air is manageable, and the boundaries of the space are clear enough to be trusted. These conditions do not switch the nervous system from one simple state to another. Alertness and rest are not opposite rooms separated by a single door. They overlap, rise, and fall through many small processes. A person can feel safe while remaining awake. The body can rest while part of the mind continues thinking. A familiar environment can reduce some forms of monitoring without removing awareness altogether. Comfort does not require the disappearance of thought. It offers thought fewer interruptions from the outside. When physical support is adequate, attention does not need to return repeatedly to a tired muscle. When the surrounding sound follows a recognizable pattern, the brain does not need to identify every vibration. When light is stable and proportionate, vision can receive the room without continually adapting to extremes. The senses remain open, but they are no longer being surprised. This makes comfort different from sensory excess. A very soft surface, a powerful fragrance, intense heat, or complete acoustic isolation may seem appealing when imagined from a distance. Yet greater intensity does not necessarily create greater ease. The body usually prefers conditions it can adjust to, move within, and leave when necessary. The most comfortable environments often contain gentle choices. A layer can be moved. A position can change. A boundary can be opened or closed. The body is not forced to remain exactly as it is. It knows that small corrections are possible, and this possibility reduces the need to prepare for larger ones. There is freedom inside the shelter. Comfort also depends on time. A new object may become easier to use after its proportions are learned. A room may become more restful after its evening sounds acquire familiar meanings. A repeated action can slowly turn into a signal that demanding activity has ended. Through repetition, the environment becomes less anonymous. The hand knows the edge of a surface. The feet know the distance between one part of the room and another. The ear knows which sounds belong to the building and which ones are unusual. These patterns form a quiet map that does not need to be consciously studied. Memory lays this map beneath the present moment. It is not always accurate, and it is not always comforting. Past experience can make a harmless sensation difficult, just as it can make an ordinary object reassuring. This is one reason comfort remains personal. Each body arrives with a different history of climates, households, customs, and relationships. No room can guarantee the same response from everyone. A protected corner may offer ease to one person and confinement to another. An open view may feel expansive or exposed. A familiar household sound may suggest continuity, while another listener may find it impossible to ignore. The science of comfort must leave space for this difference. It can describe how temperature is regulated, how touch is detected, how sound changes attention, and how light helps organize daily rhythms. It can examine posture, memory, prediction, privacy, and control. But these processes meet within an individual life. Comfort appears where the general capacities of the human body encounter one particular person in one particular place. Perhaps that is why the most meaningful comforts are often modest. They are not ideal rooms preserved from change. They are spaces that have learned how to accommodate change. They contain surfaces that support several positions, light that can follow the hour, and boundaries that can respond to different needs. They allow ordinary life to leave traces without turning every trace into a demand. A resting place may hold the slight shape of previous use. The air may carry a nearly unnoticeable sense of the weather beyond the walls. Somewhere, material expands or contracts as the night becomes cooler. These details do not need to disappear. They only need to remain within a world that feels coherent. Then the body can stop treating each sensation as a separate question. Pressure becomes support. Enclosure becomes shelter. Repetition becomes continuity. Familiarity becomes a reduction in uncertainty. Even the remaining imperfections can settle into the larger pattern. A distant sound comes and passes. The temperature shifts by a small degree. Fabric moves as the body breathes. Awareness notices these changes without following them very far. There is no urgent meaning to find. The room is doing what rooms quietly do. It contains air, weight, surfaces, shadows, and the faint evidence of life continuing elsewhere. The body is doing what bodies quietly do. It regulates, adjusts, predicts, and rests in degrees, and comfort exists between them. Not as a luxury added after every need has been satisfied, but as the gradual sense that the present moment is manageable. There is enough support. There is enough choice. There is enough familiarity to let the unknown parts remain small. The world outside has not become perfectly predictable. Tomorrow has not been arranged in every detail. But here, within the limited circle of the present space, nothing seems to require an immediate answer. The body can remain where it is. The room can continue around it. And attention, no longer needed everywhere at once, can grow quieter at the edges, until comfort is no longer something being noticed, but simply the gentle condition in which noticing begins to fade.